Hi, I'm Femi OK. You're watching The Stream. Have you heard the one about the Israeli activist who found that telling jokes was an effective peace-building strategy between Israelis and Palestinians? It's a good one. Meet Noam Shuster.
Good evening, everyone. It's your lucky night. The Mossad is here to record you. Just kidding. My name is Noam. White liberals can't pronounce my name, so they call me Chomsky. My last name is Shuster, so I have a name of a Jewish European professor from MIT in a body of a Persian Wonder Woman. My parents are considered traitors. They're left-wing liberals. So they raised me in a mixed community where Jews and Palestinians live together. My best friend Ranin, she's a Palestinian. She looks like Gigi Hadid. I look like Ahmadinejad next to her. When we cross checkpoints, the soldiers, they stop our car, they hit on her, and they look at me and they're like, give me your ID, please.
That was a clip from the new Al Jazeera Witness documentary called Reckoning with Laughter. We are joined by the subject of that documentary and also by the filmmaker. So hello, Noam. Hello to you, Amber. Noam, introduce yourself to our stream audience.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us. I'm Noam, and I'm super happy and excited to be here and speak to you.
So glad to have you. Amber, nice to have you on the stream. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
Hi, my name is Amber Ferris, and I'm a documentary filmmaker based in New York from Canada, originally Lebanese. And yeah, really excited to be here.
Glad to have you, ladies. And YouTube audience, you're watching live right now. You can jump into the conversation as well. What do you want to ask Noam? What do you want to ask Amber? The comments section awaits for you. Noam, when Amber said, I want to make a documentary, what was your reaction?
Well, Amber and I actually know each other from before. So my first reaction was like, yes, because I was going through so much at the time when I was in the US working on my comedy. And the question I was constantly getting from everyone, is this being documented? Is this being documented? And I love Amber and I love her work, and we've been friends for years also, and I know that she gets me also as a woman with Middle Eastern heritage, with which we met in Ramallah when she was working on her previous film. So when Amber was like, I'm grabbing a camera and following you, it was November 2019. I had no idea what's going to happen next. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't know what I was agreeing to. It's crazy.
Amber, what's the story that you're telling in Reckoning with Laughter?
Well, we're really telling a story about Noam and her journey from working at the UN to comedy. And she had this opportunity to to be a comedian in the US, and COVID took her home, and it left her to deal with all of the things that she had left behind, that she was escaping from in Israel. And it's really just her own personal story.
Mm-hmm. No, do you consider yourself now to be a full-time comedian? This is what you do, this is your life, this is your career path?
I am super lucky to say yes. Yeah, I made a huge change in my life. I used to work for the UN, actually. I was working on a project, a peace-building project that was aiming to counter extremism in Israeli society. I'll make the story shorter. We failed. and I was fired from my job. That was like 4 years ago. And I was literally sitting alone in the dark with not really a clear idea what's happening. And I think my creative muscles were thirsty for expressing themselves. And I think my generation, our world, is thirsty for creativity, for a resistance through creativity. And I wanted to offer that with my languages, with my skills, with my capabilities on stage, with my identities, with my life story. Sorry for the ambulance in the background. And it's incredible that as a comedian, I feel like I'm being listened to more than when I was in the diplomatic or political world. I have a heart of an activist, and it was always in between the serious work and the creative work. And today I'm super, super, super lucky to say that, yeah, I'm 100% committed to impact through satire, through writing, through creativity. We need to retell the stories here. We need to resist in any creative means that we can. As our politicians continue to fail and the system continues to fail us, people are thirsty for new voices.
But what's it like being in an audience where Noam is performing? Because you got to see that and you get to feel what that feeling is like in a comedy space where you have somebody who's unusual in where she comes from and the story that she's sharing.
Yeah, I mean, it's really amazing. What's amazing about Noam is seeing when she's performing in front of Palestinians is really interesting, or in front of Arabs in general, like she did at the comedy festival, the Arab Comedy Festival in Dearborn. It's just what she creates on stage with them is really something special. Because at first they're very kind of suspect, and then they sort of warm up to her, and then as well as when she's. The times that I've been able to be with her is been in the U.S. and yeah, it's been magical. It's really interesting to see how everyone sort of laughs at the same jokes. There's sort of a common language in comedy.
No, I'm going to put this to you. This is from Lara Friedman. She's a president of the Foundation for Middle East Peace. She has a question for you. Have a listen and then come immediately off the back of the video. Here we go.
Israel has a tradition of really sharp political humor. And here I'm thinking of shows like Eretz Nehederet, and I'm thinking of the famous sketch, Haven't the Jewish People Suffered Enough? And what I'm wondering is, today, as the space for political discussion around the Palestinians and Israel's treatment of the Palestinians gets ever narrower inside Israel, is the role and the importance of humor in getting past people's defenses and keeping these issues in the public debate even greater than it's been before.
Oh, yes. I can't even tell you how much of a big yes it is. And, it sounds like a cliche, but comedy, I think, saved my life or saved the ways in which that I think about change right now. Because let's think, let's take my identity, for example. I'm Jewish. I have Iranian heritage. My mother is an Iranian Jew, was born in Iran. I heard Farsi at home, and I grew up with Palestinians, so my Arabic is fluent. And I have been an activist all my life, and I've tried to do so many things throughout my life. And the only space in which I'm able to express these stories and to use the talents that I have and to use the languages that I have in order to reframe and retell the stories that are so crucial to retell them here is through this outlet. And I think that this is something that Jews and Palestinians, something that we have in common. Our tragedies, on our side being the Holocaust, on the Palestinian side also being the Nakba, the Palestinian catastrophe. Our suffering is central to our comedy. Our suffering and the survival mode that we've been in, or what we need to address for the future, is at the center of what we should be laughing about very, very crucially. When I do my satire or comedy in Arabic and I speak directly as a Jewish Israeli woman to the Arab world, to Arabs, to Palestinians, I'm not only doing comedy in Arabic, I'm also telling them, look, there is an alternative identity here. There's a woman who looks Middle Eastern, and she uses her Arabic not for intelligence purposes, not for what we were taught here that I need to spy on you, to be, it's a army structure. This is not fauda. This is me trying to create something completely new with the audience that is meant to voice criticism in our shared language.
I have to show you something, Amber and also Noam, that just cracked me up. And it was just a look at the end of a scene. And Noam is rolling her eyes in an epic way because this gentleman was, what you did on stage, this is just after a gig, what you did on stage, it was amazing. It wasn't comedy, it was cultural activism. And then Noam just rolls her eyes round and round and round again. Amber, why did you leave that in? And then Noam, you can tell us why you were rolling your eyes at cultural activism. Amber, you start.
I left it in because it was really cute. It was funny, and also Rami is Noam's best friend. Is one of Noam's very, very close friends, and it's in a way that your friend is, being so gracious, and you're just like, oh, come on, like it's not that big of a deal.
Noam, explain yourself.
Look, I mean, the whole idea of being a comedian at Harvard and having all these I called my show at Harvard Coexistence My Ass because I can't take myself seriously at this point. I'm a comedian. I'm trying to break down the seriousness of this. And, it puts me in an embarrassing position sometimes when I'm like, your comedy changes the world and creates blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh my God, I just want to make people laugh and
And there again is that wonderful eye roll. Thank you for doing it for us live on TV. Appreciate it. All right, some YouTube comments for you both. This is Liviu Constantine. Thank you, Liviu, for watching the show. Maybe getting everyone to joke and laugh could be the bridge that could connect them, move forward and put everything behind. After all, this planet can accommodate all of us. Is that naive? Noam, you start.
Amber, did you want to jump in?
I mean, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I mean, it's not naive. And it's okay to be naive. Naive is not negative. It's just that I'm not sure this is the need. The point is that I know that at this point we have no way of really getting people together. We have no way of doing these failed dialogue groups and trying to think about, no one wants to hear the word peace. And therefore I think that's where the creative muscles have to really, really, really engage and work. So if the point is just to bring people together, then there is something missing there. The point is to suggest something new, to be an alternative, to smash the people in power with jokes so that they look at themselves and hear me and think of what they're doing, to make the voiceless people who are oppressed heard by someone who is supposed to be on the other side but is actually in solidarity with them. So it's a lot of things that come into it.
Yeah, I think Noam says it in the film, right? With Palestinians, she's not teaching them anything that they don't know. You can't teach the oppressed. The oppressed knows. And so what she's doing with them is sort of just creating something that's quite special. So like she says, they're seen and heard. But I think with Israelis and with Jewish Americans, there's a little bit more work there that she's trying to do in trying. It's not necessarily about coexistence in any way. It's really trying to create a co-resistance, she's trying to move the Jewish audience a little bit more. So I think it's more than just bringing people together. There's an actual strategy and point to it.
On YouTube, Kuzba89 says, I really loved the film, especially the sequences shot during quarantine. It really demonstrated what is possible. I'm trying not to do spoilers here because everybody, I want you to spend 25 minutes watching Reckoning with Laughter. It's really worth it. So at some point, though, and this was last spring, Noam got sick and she got COVID, and she was back in Israel. I'm trying not to tell all the entire story. And she, in her recovery, she was sent to this hotel where people who had mild COVID, they would recover from COVID there. And there were classes. And this is where I'm going to hand over to a little excerpt so you can experience the class as well. Have a look.
אוקיי, הגעתי הרגע למלון בירושלים, ובמערכת הכריזה הזמינו אותנו לשיעור זומבה. מה? נחתתי. הייתי לפני שנייה בבית חולים. כל האנשים פה בכושר כאילו הם לא חולים בקורונה. אני קפצתי 2 שניות ואני לא יכולה...
No, you have this ability to find laughter in dark things and also seriousness in laughter at the same time. So there's something special about this hotel that you mentioned that really comes out, that really gels with your philosophy of Israelis and Palestinians. Take us there, explain.
Wow, it was a surreal 2 weeks. You know, we were all sick. We were the only people in the world who are hugging, kissing. I was doing comedy shows in the lobby. I was the only comedian in the world that had shows not on Zoom. Everything was surreal, including the way we were treated. We were treated, all of us, as equals. We were getting the same meals, the same sheets, the same towels. We were sick people under a system that, you know, that intended to take care of us equally and so that we can all get released. People wanted to stay for a free ride in the hotel, but that's, you know. And as a woman, and you know, as a child, I mean, I grew up in the only experimental, you know, Israeli-Palestinian community between Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, where there was such a huge experiment for this coexistence and shared living.
Oasis of Peace. I'm just going to show our viewers where this place is. So Oasis of Peace is where you grew up,
Right.
and deliberately Israelis and Palestinians live side by side.
Yes, and this is why I know Arabic. I attended the bilingual school there. My whole life I've been this, like, I've been raised as the you know, as the flag of peace kind of girl. And I also learned the flaws in the peace movement. How you know, the flaws that it's very Ashkenazi centered, middle class, very much, you know, not reaching out to marginalized community, and more and more and more. And more criticism that I have also as a Mizrahi, Middle Eastern Jewish, you know, we call it like, maybe you call it a Jew of color. We can get, you know, this is a very, very complex issue, but I grew up not having the common profile of like a leftist, you know, Ashkenazi Israeli leftist. So I grew up with this criticism that I have on the peace movement in Israel. And then I walk into this Hotel Corona, and there are people from the different, you know, contradicting sides of society, you know, from all classes, from all different religious communities, Israelis, Palestinians, from all walks of the two societies. And the radical compassion that I witnessed in this hotel was mind-blowing. I could not find the animosity, the differences, the inequalities that exist outside. I was disconnected from it for 2 weeks, and I was worried that my stand-up career is over. Because this is it, the pandemic is gonna kill, you know, people were... And the simplicity of us getting the same resources and treated the same, and what it brought from people, what it brought out from people, and what equality can do when we're treated the same, when resources are being distributed to the two people, what it brought out of people, I was shocked and amazed. And of course, when I left the hotel, things went back to the same, you know, depressing injustices that exist outside. But I witnessed a very, very small example of what radical compassion and radical equality can do when it will happen, when we end the occupation, when Palestinians are not oppressed, also internally in the Israeli society, when we have so much fixing to do in the entire system here. And it was just a glimpse of an example that I'm trying to hold on to its memory.
Amber, I have a question for you. It's from Raphael Shimonov, and he wants to know about the filmmaking process. A particular question. Have a listen, have a look.
As someone who films a lot of left movement work, in particular leftist Jewish movement in the US, my question to Amber, one of the most moving scenes that was captured was in the hotel during COVID lockdown, what Noam called the microcosm. There was so much going on that you brought to us, but so much was going on simultaneously. So you must have missed a moment that happened in the periphery or heard of one that happened after. Is there a moment that you've heard of in that space, or really anywhere in the film, that you wish you could have captured and brought to us? Maybe you could bring it to us now.
Sure. I mean, like, yeah, there was so much going on at the hotel, and the filmmaking process during that time was quite difficult because it's hard to self-film. So it's hard for Noam to have a camera like sort of on herself the whole time as she's experiencing everything. And so I was having to, get up really early in the morning because I'm based in Brooklyn and talk and find the people that were around her, which were, sort of younger Palestinians and Israelis that could film for me. And so there was a lot of, really amazing, touching stories that came and relationships that Noam had. And one relationship was with a woman named Rafa, who Noam became very close to in the film, who was, I believe, Noam, you can probably feel it like her in a bit more, but she was was she a nurse, or she was like what did she do?
A midwife.
She was a midwife, right? And who was there, had left her, I think her husband had just passed away, and she had, 5 children or something like that. And I think just the relationship with her and Noam was just really, really touching. But we didn't have like the footage to be able to sort of tell that story completely.
No, I want to show you some of the comments that we've had back from the reviews of Reckoning with Laughter. Have a look.
It was really special and unique to see Noam do stand-up for people of all different kinds of backgrounds, from Israelis to Americans to Palestinians, and I hope in the future we could see more inclusiveness here in the United States.
We had the chance for Noam to come speak on Persian Girl podcast back in 2019, so right before she began her studies at Harvard, and it was pretty amazing just to watch that journey unfold. And we had her on because the same issues that are prevalent in her comedy routine is the same for us, being that we're Persian and Jewish. And, we knew that we differ on some of these topics, but we loved speaking with her. And she has this lightness that she's able to bring when discussing these issues that I think the documentary highlights really well.
Oh, I'm so moved.
Do you feel the power of jokes? That's what they're saying, is that there is power in being funny, but also in being political as well. Like the politics and the jokes, they kind of go hand in hand for you.
Yeah, I always make fun of myself that I don't know if I'm the only comedian that after I tell jokes, I cry. It's like, and Amber, when we met in November 2019 in Brooklyn, and Amber looked at me and she's like, I'm grabbing a camera and I'm following you. I had no idea what's going to happen. I knew, I was touring with Maz Jobrani, an Iranian comedian that I admire, that really, really put me on stages for his opening act at the Kennedy Center, at big comedy clubs that I didn't think that I'll get to so fast, and things were being booked and I was writing, and there's something about being far away from Israel, Palestine, and doing my comedy over there. It was easy. I was fueled with laughter, with material. I went to see the Dalai Lama, and this meeting with the Dalai Lama brought me that was the end segment of my show that was supposed to happen. And I went to Columbus, Ohio on March 8th to perform for Women's Day in front of the Jewish community in Ohio. And I come back, and as I say in the film, my emails are cancellation.
Amber,
Festival of cancellation.
To watch more of you, they're going to have to watch the Al Jazeera Witness documentary. It's called Reckoning with Laughter. Noam Shuster returns to Israel. Noam Shuster, Amber Perez, thank you for joining us here on The Stream today. Really appreciate you.